This is the ultimate camera showdown of Samsung Galaxy S23 Fan Edition versus Xiaomi Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus 5G. The battle of the Fan Edition versus the top of the line Xiaomi mid-range phone. Who will win? Let's find out. Let's begin and let's talk about color profile and saturation, and both phones are doing really well on this category. Not just on colors but the whole image quality test. I would say Xiaomi came a long way. Nothing surprises me with Samsung phones. I mean, they're really good camera phones alongside with Huawei, Pixel, and iPhones, and emerging brands like Vivo and OnePlus. Both phones are set to auto mode, HDR with AI or scene optimizer, whichever phones you're using, and honestly, the comparison is all over the place. I can provide a common traits on both phones, but in general, we could see how these two phones behave. Xiaomi Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus is generally warmer indoors. You can see this on the white, more like an off-white color, and every colors from the greens, the browns, and the oranges follows. Also, although it manages the highlights really well, but comparing this with S23 Fan Edition, the Samsung competition is doing a better job on highlights. I definitely dig some of the images that Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus produces. I mean, I don't need to edit any of the photos if I would just post it on social media, so that's really cool. The colors are a little bit muted on areas where the lights are a little bit dim, so that's something I want to expose on this comparison test. While the few months old Samsung Galaxy S23 Fan Edition is a more neutral white balance, and ironically Samsung produced one of the warmer white balance on the smartphone photos, so just imagine how warm the images on the Xiaomi looks like. Also, I noticed that the images on S23 FE is a little bit brighter compared to Redmi Note, and although Xiaomi has punchier colors and warmer, the color red on S23 FE is more vivid than the competition. Looking quickly on papers, the older S23 FE that was released last October 2023 has triple camera setup with ultra-wide telephoto and the main sensor having 50 megapixel, an 8 megapixel telephoto, and 12 megapixel ultra-wide. The first two sensors have OIS and the rear camera can shoot up to 8K 24 FPS. The selfie camera is only a 10 megapixel shooter but can shoot 4K 60 FPS with Gyro EIS. The new Xiaomi Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus 5G was released last year, September of 2023. It went global just a few weeks ago and has a triple camera setup with 200 megapixel wide, 8 megapixel ultra wide, and a mediocre 2 megapixel macro. The rear camera can shoot up to 4K 30 FPS. The selfie has a bigger resolution than S23 FE with 16 megapixel, but this can only shoot 1080p at 60 FPS. Going back to the color comparison, I think both phones are doing really well on the mid-range category. On a well-lit situation, both phones are like flagship phones. Well, Samsung Galaxy S23 FE is considered a flagship phone, but Xiaomi Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus is no slouch. And checking all sensors from the ultra-wide, wide, and telephoto, colors are consistent on both phones. I just noticed that the main sensor on S23 FE is a tad brighter than the competition. This is Samsung Galaxy S23 Fan Edition on 4K or 8K at 24 FPS, the biggest resolution on smartphone. Sadly, Xiaomi Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus 5G doesn't have this resolution, but it has 4K 30 FPS. Let's talk about portrait mode, and I love the implementation of these two phones. I don't think there's right or wrong. I think it's just a matter of which image you prefer when you buy these two phones. All of these images are set to default, whatever beautificational filters they have, that will be compared by default. So the images on S23 Fan Edition are bright. I mean, it feels like a little bit racist to be honest, but the skin tone is brighter in real life. So for some people, they may prefer brighter or whiter skin tone, but not for everyone. So it's a matter of personal preference. While on the new Xiaomi Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus 5G, the skin tone is on the natural side, but when I'm zooming into the photo, I see that there's a little bit of blush effect on my face, a little bit of rosy cheeks, and there's definitely smoothing going on. In terms of subject separation and against the light, I think both phones are doing a fine job of cutting the subject and highlighting the subject even though the light source is at the back. I like the contrasty feel of S23 Fan Edition, but then again, it's a personal preference. If you like a whiter or brighter photo on portrait mode, the Redmi Note is also a good choice. But the most definite advantage of S23 FE is the focal length. It has 1x, 2x, and 3x, like a typical 24mm, 50mm, and 85mm shots, while you only have one focal length on Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus 5G, which is around 24mm, so just an FYI. And looking at the selfie camera, it's a mixed bag for both phones. Sometimes the colors are better on Xiaomi Redmi and sometimes it's better on the S23 Fan Edition, but I feel like the selfie shots are really good on both phones. Now, aside from portrait mode, there's a big difference on night shots. I feel like one is superior than the other on this category. By default, these two phones take really good night shots, but if you pixel peep on the images, you would see that there's more details on S23 Fan Edition, and Xiaomi Redmi is a little bit soft. For those night shot with sufficient light, I think the only difference is the colors. It's more saturated and warmer on Samsung Galaxy S23 Fan Edition, but if you go pitch black condition, this is where the mid-range phone struggles, and this is where the Fan Edition shines on night shot. I mean, it's a night and day difference between the two, so that's something you need to know. If you're taking a lot of night photography and situation where there's no light, then S23 Fan Edition is definitely a better choice. This is Xiaomi Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus 5G in 4K 24 FPS. I like the design and the screen of Xiaomi Redmi more, but I like the One UI of Samsung Galaxy S23 FE more. In terms of flaring, if we check both sensors from the ultra-wide and main sensor, almost the same, but I think S23 FE is slightly managing it better on the ultra-wide. If we talk about the highlights like what we mentioned on the beginning, Samsung Galaxy S23 Fan Edition will manage it better if we zoom in on strong light source. For exposure category, again, S23 Fan Edition is brighter and better exposed compared to Xiaomi Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus 5G. But if you talk about the macro feature, since S23 FE has the telephoto zoom, Xiaomi Redmi Note 13 Pro added a 2 megapixel macro that takes really close focus shots. In terms of sharpness, if you look on the ultra-wide and if you punch in, you will notice that S23 FE is sharper. Also on the main sensor, it's slightly sharper and has more contrast than Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus. And zooming into the photo, S23 FE has 30 times digital crop compared to the 10 times of Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus. And lastly, the comparison of details, 200 megapixel versus 50 megapixel. And if we zoom in, you will notice that Xiaomi Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus has more details than Galaxy S23 Fan Edition. So I think that's it for the image test. I think the biggest difference is the portrait mode and night shot. Let me know in the comment section below what you think. Now let's talk about the video test from the stabilization, zoom, and low light. Let's start this video test with zoom capability, and Samsung Galaxy S23 Fan Edition has farther reach. This is the ultra-wide sensor, and in terms of stabilization, almost the same on both phones, but the biggest difference here is the resolution. S23 FE can shoot 4K, while Redmi Note can only shoot Full HD. This is the video test using the main sensor, and in terms of stabilization, I think S23 FE is a little jittery. There's also a difference in white balance, neutral on Redmi Note and almost bluish on S23 Fan Edition. Another win for Samsung flagship, this is the selfie video recording, and although both phones are shooting really well on selfie, it's only Full HD on Redmi Note and 4K on S23 Fan Edition. And lastly, testing both phones on low light using the main sensor. There's focus breathing on Xiaomi Redmi, but as you can see, it has better exposure than S23 Fan Edition, although it's warmer on the Samsung's flagship. So this is the ultimate camera comparison video of Samsung Galaxy S23 Fan Edition versus Xiaomi Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus 5G. Two great camera phones. Obviously, Samsung Galaxy S23 Fan Edition is a flagship phone. This can compete with phones that have good portrait mode and night shots, good stabilization and high resolution on video, and of course, the presence of the telephoto zoom. But if you're on a budget and you're not a camera-centric person but still wanted to shoot really good photos and videos, Xiaomi Redmi Note 13 Pro Plus 5G is great all-around specs for its price. The night shot and video resolution could be better, but this is a really good solid mid-range camera phone. And there we go, hope you enjoyed this video. I'll continue to compare these two phones in our channel, so stay tuned. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.